Welcome to the Sad Boys Book Club. My name is Dusty,
And I'm Daniel.
and we are reading Abaddon's War by James S.A.
Uh, I think you got the title wrong. It's Abaddon's Gate.
That's what I said, Leviathan's Gate. Book 3 of The Expansive by James S.A.
So, and with this book, I think this safely is the longest running series that we've done on this program. I can't think of.
I think it's the only one.
Is there anything we've even done? Yeah, I don't think we've done any sequels. I think this has just been, our one of our
Yeah, I mean, to pull back the
perennial.
curtain...
Go ahead.
To pull back the curtain a little bit, we've, talked about Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining, but we haven't, really done or considered doing it yet. So, yeah, I think this is it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that one day, but maybe we'll have to decide when. But I've kind of been a little bit less sanguine of this series than you, although I certainly in the last book it definitely. I'll put it this way: if you hadn't chosen the second book, I probably would have been okay just letting the series go. Not to say I hated it, but it was just like, okay, yeah, I think I got what I wanted out of that. I can move on, because I wasn't particularly interested in Holden, so I wasn't really wanting to continue necessarily. But after you picked it, I really liked the second book, particularly the complementary characters. They really kind of piqued my interest, and by the time we wrapped up that one, I was I pretty much locked in at that point doing book 3, and actually it is this time it was Ivan picked it and put it on the schedule.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised when you suggested it.
Well, I just figured it would fall in the time period when we usually have been doing the books, so
yeah,
keep it going.
Yeah. I gotta say though, so we're covering the first quarter of the book ish, the first 12, the prologue, and then the first 12 chapters. I gotta say, I think this might be the weakest start of the 3 so far, personally.
To be honest, I was gonna wait until we got into it. This one not grabbing me yet.
Yeah. There's a lot of setup going on right now, which is interesting, given that it's the third book in a series. But I mean, to be fair, with how Caliban's War ended, with the protomolecule leaving Venus, and then Miller suddenly appearing with Holden, I guess you gotta establish that. But it's not been what I expected, especially with Miller. I thought Miller was back, and it seems like he's just kind of like Obi-Wan in Empire Strikes Back. Kind of.
It kind of does seem like that. Maybe we could get to that when we get to Miller. But I will say also, whereas I think the new perspective characters in Caliban's War they were really a strong point of the book. They weren't these new ones. I'm not really rocking with yet.
Yeah, I think these are the weakest perspective characters so far.
A space pastor and a spoiled rich girl, and some generic old soldier guy, tough but in his mind tough but fair. None of those archetypes are particularly ones that I am in love with, but I'm gonna give them space. I think they deserve, they being the combined partnership that makes James S.A. I think they have earned the right to be given a fair shake. So
yeah,
I'm willing to suspend judgment for now and see where it goes.
Yeah, I would say I still think my least favorite perspective character might be the doctor guy from Caliban's War. He was definitely, in my opinion, the least interesting part of the book, but thankfully, by the time he met up with the crew, and his story merged with theirs, which was pretty early on, it was in the first half, it kind of alleviated my issues with his story because he became part of the main plot. but I still say he's probably my least favorite perspective character. But yeah, these three I think are the weakest bunch so far. I think there's definitely a lot of room for them to grow into being better and more interesting characters. I don't think we're supposed to like Melba, who I guess my spoiler for like 5 minutes from now is Clarissa Mao, daughter of the I forgot what his name was, but the leader of the Mao Kwiatkowski Corporation, who went down at the end of Caliban's War with Avasarala and Holden bringing him in. It's his daughter, and she's probably my least favorite because I'm just like, oh my god, this girl's just like, I hate James Holden because he's responsible for every bad thing that's happened to me and my family. And it's like, no, your father is responsible for everything that's happened to you and your family, you stupid idiot. But, you know, everyone wants a scapegoat.
I was going to say, when I got to her part, I was like, I can't believe she is making me side with James Holden. I can't believe she's making me defend him. I'm like, what are you doing, you psycho?
Yeah, if you make Daniel agree with James Holden, then you are doing something wrong. Obviously, Holden is our other perspective character. There are four. But honestly, I really don't feel like a lot has happened. I feel like we could make this a 15-minute episode, and I wouldn't be upset in terms of like how little has happened so far in this first quarter. It's kind of strange.
Well, why don't we always say, oh, this is gonna be a short episode, and then we crank out a 2-hour one. So
yeah, right.
Why don't we can go ahead and get started and see how it actually goes.
So I think the best way to do this is just to split it into just each perspective character's storyline, because none of them have met up. None of them are directly related to each other yet. So I think it's just going to be easier to say this is the Holden story, this is the Melba story, this is the Bull story, and this is the Anna story. Or Anna. I think I'm going to say Anna because she's Russian.
To pull back the curtain, my copy of the book that I ordered online was late in arriving, so I had to jump on the audiobook to catch up for this episode, and the audiobook narrator called her Anna.
Okay, which I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm not going to say you read the book because you listened to it. You didn't read it, you listened to it, but you still consumed it, and I think listening to an audiobook is just as legitimate as reading a novel. It's two sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah, I mean, I would have rather read it for the purposes of this, but you know, I otherwise we would have had to delay a week, so I just decided to jump on it.
Yeah. So like really quickly, just go through the prologue. It's you know, it's a pretty standard setup, and it's not really worth going too deep into outside of what it really means, but you know, one thing that I was really missing in Caliban's War that they thankfully brought back from the prologue of Leviathan Wakes is the perspective character drinking their own piss. So thanks, James S.A. for bringing back the literal piss take. I was going
to say, why is that coming back? Why does that? Oh, there's the other perspective character.
Yeah, it's the prologue one though, so it's like.
I have a note here. Sometimes I'll take notes. For things that I noticed when I'm reading the book that I might want to bring up on the show. One of them was, why do so many of these intros start with someone drinking urine? That was one of the first things that I wrote.
Yeah. Thankfully that wasn't the case in Caliban's War though, because it was the dude's daughter was the prologue character in Caliban's War. So I'm glad they did not write a like 7 or 8 year old drinking her own pee in the prologue of that book. But I just thought it was really funny. I'm just like, oh, hey, look at that. Someone's drinking their pee again. Because Julie Mao...
That was probably the only reason.
Yeah, Julie Mao did it in Leviathan Wakes, and now I don't even remember the dude's name, but it doesn't matter. His name doesn't matter. Basically, the biggest takeaways from the prologue are the protomolecule, what like Aerostation as it became assimilated with the protomolecule and constructed into its own thing on Venus over the last like year or so between the end of Leviathan Wakes and the start of it has moved. What planet did it make rings around? Was it Jupiter?
Venus.
Venus. Really? It made a ring around Venus? I thought it left Venus.
Wait, no. Is it Uranus?
No, he wants to go to Uranus because that's the furthest away. Or no, he wants to go to Titania. He wanted to go to Titania. Yeah, it's Uranus. You're right. Okay. Yeah, so it left Venus, flew all the way to Uranus, and created a ring around the planet, and it's now like this just protomolecule aerostation ring. And the prologue follows this kid who's from Sarah's station, and he's gets in with this group that they call it slingshotting, to where it's you basically just take gravity and momentum and slingshot yourself as far as you can go in a ship that doesn't have any like propulsion or power. It's just using gravity, and he's doing it because he wants to fuck his cousin.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say they were coming hot out the gate in this one with like the urine drinking and the weird incest, and I was just kind of thinking, honestly, they need to like ease in. They need to ease us in rather than just dropping us into these very weird, squalid situations.
Yeah, but basically his whole like, oh, I'm gonna get her to fuck me. She's gonna want me. He's doing a slingshot all the way to Uranus to the ring. He wants to go through the ring. But like, there's also it's who has the blockade up over it? Is it Mars?
Mars, yeah.
And he's like, they'll just detain me. No, they try to shoot him down. But then like their missiles disappear, and he's like, huh, that's weird. And then suddenly the ring stops his thing, and he splatters. And that's the prologue.
Yeah. I gotta say, did not like the prologue. I didn't like all that stuff, and also, this is just gonna be my sort of thing. It reminded me a lot of things from the teens, where where there was a lot of cultural products where they were very self consciously progressive about a lot of things. But they still, like, whenever there is a Latino, or in this case Latino coded character, they were like, oh yeah, he's like super lusty, and he's always speaking like a broken language, and I don't know. And that one, another example of this that was like, I don't even know if I should say it, but like The Last of Us 2, they're these things that are very self consciously like, oh, we're very progressive, as we will see later on in this book, and then that's like where they can kind of kick down. It seems, I don't know. It definitely rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, no, like I really I don't want to come across as too harsh, but like, yeah, this really is the weakest start to a book so far. But I'm confident it's gonna pick up. But yeah, the prologue, it was just I'm it was fine. Or no, well, I mean, it wasn't any. I could have left it. Like, normally, I don't know.
I understand they need a cold open. I think this one just didn't work for numerous reasons.
Yeah, I think
and I don't
agree.
think we need to necessarily dwell on it. I think we've covered it.
Yeah, so let's start with Holden. So I think we've read approximately 3 chapters each of each character so far. I don't think that's completely correct. I think there's maybe been 2 Anna chapters and maybe 4 Bull chapters, but I think it's been 3 and 3 for the other 2 characters. So not a lot of story yet. And like I said, their stories haven't converged yet. They're all 4 completely separate storylines right now. So not, like I said, not a lot has happened. We're still in the setup phase. So Holden, it's been about a year since the end of Caliban's War. If we remember, in Caliban's War, he got fired by the OPA, by Frank, and that was, as Holden thought, it was the best decision that could have happened. They've been basically freelancers, just making good money. They've ran like 3 or 4 really high paying jobs that they could, at this point in time, could easily just survive on for quite a while and just, rest on their laurels or whatever. But that's not how they are. Group chemistry is at an all-time high. Everyone's super. Everyone's had a good year, with the sole exception of the visits that Holden has been getting from Detective Miller. And it seems like I said earlier, it was kind of like a Obi-Wan and Empire kind of thing, in that he just kind of force ghosts into Holden. He's like, we need to talk, every single time he comes up. And
yeah, like a blue firefly appears, and then he's like, we need to talk. Also, my eyes are black now, but it's okay. It's chill.
But yeah, like he just talks to Holden in these super cryptic ways. You know, like it's like, oh, like I don't really know. It's hard to kind of explain because I don't understand them yet either. I'm right there with Holden. I don't know what he's saying. But obviously he's alluding towards something big that's coming. I can only assume that where I'm at right now is I think those rings are a gateway that are gonna let something through, and I'm truly basing that off of the fact that the book's called Abaddon's Gate. That's literally my reasoning. But also Miller saying something's coming, or implying that something is coming. But yeah, Miller keeps visiting Holden. Only Holden can see him. I don't know if the whole crew knows, but Naomi knows for sure. And she tries to be, there for him about it and whatnot. But yeah, there's one time where Miller comes to talk to him, and then he just suddenly stops, and he's like, "It's happening," or "It happened." "Oh no, it happened." And they're like, "What happened?" And then that's when we see that there's the news report about the prologue, the kid that went through, and how he became paste. But it seems like the ring is activating. So now what's happening is Earth and Mars are zooming to Uranus as fast as they can to, I guess, set up out there and see what they can do. So that's the whole thing. And so they're Holden's super concerned about it. He doesn't want anything to do with the protomolecule anymore. He doesn't want anything to do with whatever Miller might be talking about. So he wants to take the crew as far away from Uranus as possible. So he accepts this really shady job. They're currently on Sarah Station, right?
I don't think it was Sarah Station. I think weren't they on like some sort of like gambling planet?
Yeah, they're on just it's an asteroid. They're in the belt, I think, or it's either an asteroid. Yeah, I think it is an asteroid. I don't remember. They're somewhere. And yeah, it's a gambling place, and he's accepted a really shady job from a shady corporation that Naomi's just like, if I was making a shell corporation, that's what I would call it. She's super against it, and she's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, because I want to be as far away from that as possible. I don't want to deal with this Miller thing. I don't want to deal with anything that the protomolecule has to do with. I want us away from it. I want us safe. And she's like, okay, I understand. And so she goes along with him, but then nothing happens. They're waiting for the payload, the cargo, but then it never comes, and so they're waiting, and he tries calling the dude, but then eventually the dude calls him, and he's like, hey, you didn't tell us that you were, basically the guy's just like, someone's coming for you, you didn't tell us this, so we're neutralizing your contract, you can keep the deposit, but yeah, if you're able to, you should get out as soon as possible. And so everyone's freaking out. Holden's like, everybody get ready, prep the ship. Him and Amos, they get their weapons ready. They're at getting ready to blast away anyone that might try to attack them. This woman, it ends up being this woman. She walks over and she's just like, are you James Holden? He's like, yep. And she's like, you've been served, and hands him like a data pad or something. She's like, have a nice day. And yeah, so Mars has taken James Holden and the crew to court in Earth courts to take back the Rocinante, because they're arguing that it doesn't fall under salvage laws and that they have stolen the ship from Mars. And it's too late. They're not able to leave, and they're locked down. They can't leave. However, they do get a little bit of good luck, maybe, in that this woman calls him, this reporter, and she's like, hey, I'm trying to get to Uranus to cover this story about the rings, and I want you to take me there. I want you and your crew to take me there. And she's like, I could ask anybody, but I want to ask you, because she also wants something out of him as well. So far, it's just she wants interviews with him and whatnot, because James Holden and the crew of the Rocinante, they're a big deal. And she's like, if you accept
they
this,
were like in two of the biggest news story of the last 2 years.
Yeah, they were in the thick of all of it. And she's like, and I have a lawyer ready, and I have a backdated job agreement or contract. Thank you, that's the word. That will be able to get past this lockdown that you have, and we'll be able to go. And so without anything else that they feel like they can do, they accept. and then the rest of the Holden storyline at this point in time is them on their way to Uranus. It's going to take like 4 months or something like that to get there, and it's just kind of the tension that this interview crew has, and Holden, the crew basically telling Holden, "You're the captain. You got to take the brunt of this. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want them prying into our pasts. So you got to handle this." And it's just been Holden.
And then Holden kind of goes into like, oh, and he doesn't exactly tell us, the reader, but he's like, we get a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. What was the name of the ice hauler that he was on?
The Canterbury.
The Canterbury, that's right. He was basically in his inner thoughts. He was like, "That's true. I mean, pretty much everybody that worked on the Canterbury was because they were like drummed out of a more respectable post, were just like completely new, or they had some reason to be on there, and it was never really a good reason." So he kind of, without prying too deeply into the past of his crew, he just kind of agrees then to become the figurehead for this documentary. And the crew are giving very polite but superficial answers to like their questions in an attempt to be edited out of as many of the scenes as possible.
Yeah, and that's basically it so far for Holden's storyline, Holden and the crew. That's kind of where we left them.
What they need to start doing, though, is they need maybe like start singing like copyrighted music.
Well, I mean, Amos at one point he laced his answers with as many expletives as he could to make it basically unusable.
Okay. I was kind of joking, but that's true. They are actually employing techniques to try to keep themselves off of the air, as it were.
Yeah.
Or vacuum. I don't know. However you would put that.
Yeah, but like I'm enjoying the crew. Everyone still feels like themselves. The writing is good for them. I hope
we see more of them down the pipe, though, because the beginning this seems like definitely the shortest of the sections.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the thing, though. So I just want more. It just feels like we're just setting up. So but that's really it. I'm enjoying the possibility of where it's going, but there's just not a lot that happens yet. And so now let's move on to Bull. Bull is he's a member of the OPA. He works not directly under Fred Johnson, but him and Fred are very close. They've been together in the OPA for a long time. They're both Earth.
They've been
Earthborn.
together since the Earth days, in fact.
Yeah, they're both from the Earth military when they were both in the military and on Earth. But there's a bit of a power struggle going on in like the top end of the OPA, and Fred is basically this is the end of the first chapter, but Fred basically has to tell Bull that, look, you're my best man. I trust you with everything, but I can't do things officially. I'm gonna have to have put you in this really just shitty spot where you're under these people. But I also need you to get the job done. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't like doing this, but my hands are tied. That's kind of the situation that Bull has found himself in. Like he's been demoted from being like second in command to just chief of security or something like that. On what it's so the Navo, which
I think it's the Nauvoo.
Yeah, which if you remember from Leviathan Wakes was the giant Mormon Mass Effect Andromeda ship that they launched at Aero Station. Generation ship, yeah. That they launched at Aero Station, and then Aero Station just moved out of the way. And then in Caliban's War, there was near the end, there was talks about how they were getting together a group to go and retrieve the ship as it was just going out into deep space. So they've recovered it, and they basically, Fred Johnson just pulled a salvage law rule on it and was like, this is mine now, and they've converted it into a paper tiger of the OPA, and they've renamed it the Behemoth. It's this they've converted it into as much of a dreadnought as they can. It's massive. It's huge. I think they said they could fit like 3 dreadnought class ships like the Donnager side by side inside of it. It's massive. They've got a huge amount of ballistics, like rail guns, missiles, just a whole lot of weaponry attached to it. But the thing about it is if they ever have to use that weaponry, there's a very strong chance it's going to do more damage to the behemoth than it would to whatever they're firing at. So, like I said, it's a paper tiger. And they are also on their way to Uranus because they want the OPA has to have a presence there, and they have to, look like a threat because this is some big giant standoff that's going to be happening between all three of the major factions of Earth. And they have the luxury of being closer because they're in the belt as opposed to, Earth and Mars. So they're going to get there first out of the three. And Bull, basically, he's just doing menial tasks mostly in his story so far. He's trying to make sure that the ship won't destroy itself. So he's trying to make deals with the different different companies, like the I forgot the name of that girl that he talks to. It's like Sam or something. And he's asking if she can, she's like in engineering or something, if she can work on this, and she's like, I can't work on this unless this is good. And she's like, I need 18 days of notice, otherwise we're not gonna be able to get it done. And he's trying to just, he has nothing to work with, and he's still trying to make gold out of it. And it's a really weird kind of section of the story because I don't really feel like anything important. I obviously, because it exists, it's going to mean something later on down the line, but I feel like this is the most what are you trying to build to story so far, because like I said, not much happens. The biggest thing is he goes after a drug dealer. The way that the girl said that my crew needs 18 days to work on it sober, and he's like, what do you, and he comes back to her once he has that epiphany, he's like, what do you mean sober? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you, I can't tell you. And he's like, oh, your people are coming in high, that's dangerous. There was an accident recently at her plant, and I don't think anyone was killed, but someone was injured. And he's like, was it because they were high? And it was basically uppers to keep them working longer shifts. It's not like they were, getting drunk and coming to work, swaying and whatnot. It was just stuff to allow them to not be fatigued or tired, but it still leads to mistakes. So he's able to get a name from her. He goes and he finds the dude. He takes him. He finds his bag of drugs in his locker. Then he takes the dude, beats the shit out of him, causes a whole scene, drives him to an airlock. Everyone's following him. He throws him in the airlock and launches him into space. And then when the airlock closes, he takes his bag of drugs and throws it in there. And he's like, if anybody knows of any other drugs, go ahead and put them in here over the next 18 hours, and we're gonna launch them too. No harm, no foul. But basically, just this ain't gonna fly anymore. And if it does, and if you think it's going to fly, you saw what's gonna happen to you. So, and there were some. We learned later that there were more bags that were brought over, and so people got the message. But his XO wants to reprimand him for it, and one of the people
basically is that classic oh,
you went too far.
You're the wild loose cannon cop that plays by his own rules, but we can't do it. We're too weak and lame. And then he's like, oh yeah, well I'm here to do the job. I'm here to keep order. And they're like, no, we're weak liberals. No, don't do that. We want you to follow the rules. And he's like, no, I'm too cool for that. It's basically that rather played out sequence you see in basically every kind of cop movie. Well, a lot of cop movies since Dirty Harry.
Yeah. And yeah, that dude has no teeth. His XO, and he's able to get away with it. But the other person that's there, I forgot her name. It's like something Pa. And I don't really remember exactly what she is, but I feel like she's going to be the thorn in his side throughout the storyline. She's basically just like, it's like, basically you made an enemy out of me for this, is what it seems like the message that she sent him was.
Which is correct. I mean, what he did was totally wrong. It was an insane thing to do.
Yeah. But outside of just talking about his team that he has so far, was the guy's name Serge? He seems like he's going to be a seemingly loyal follower of Bull's. But like, I don't really know what else to say about Bull's storyline. Like, it's just him and Fred are trying to keep the OPA afloat and looking like a menace, like a true menace to Earth and Mars. And he's just having to deal with a lot of bureaucratic red tape. That's kind of his storyline so far, and like no one wants to work
But
with
not
him.
in a fun way like Avasarala last time.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see. I don't know, but that's just kind of Bull's storyline so far.
I'm also disappointed in Fred. I'm like, man, this is your guy. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
he's kind of, he feels like he's been diminished.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. But it feels like there's maybe what they're trying to set up is there's a power struggle. And there's people that are a little bit uncomfortable within the OPA of how powerful Fred is, been the fact he is not a belter, but he is an earther. Probably also because of the fact that he led, punitive campaigns and like killed at least thousands of belters before essentially becoming sympathetic to their cause. So I'm sure that's all going to come into it. I mean, that's another aspect of the Bull storyline is that's why he didn't get the EXO job. It was because they were for this particular mission where it was going to be a showdown, a hopefully polite showdown between the Earth and Mars. They wanted the Belter contingent to be represented by Belter leadership, which I guess we'll see how that all shakes out. I'm really hoping it gets better. I am very interested in the OPA. I like them. OPA tends to be my favorite part of any of these books that we've read so far. So I was a little bit disappointed with how this one started. But then, as we said, I think the Corey team has built up enough goodwill and has shown themselves to be good enough writers that I'm willing to, even though this is not the best part of the books that we've ever read, see where it goes.
Yeah. And so now, let's move on to Anna. Her storyline, I think, so far has been the shortest. Basically, she is a pastor. I forgot what her actual title is, but she's part of
I think, isn't she like a Methodist pastor?
Yeah, she's
and like a doctor of something.
Yeah, and she's part of this enclave that is, she also, she has a family. She has, because something that we've learned about how genetics work in the series is that you can have an infinite number of mothers and fathers, like genetic parents, which I just find, I think that's just really funny personally. Because like Holden has like 5 moms and 3 dads or something like that.
It was something like that.
So
he's
Anna,
the polycule son.
Yeah. Anna has a wife and a daughter, so it's just the two of them, and they've been staying on Europa for the last couple of years or so. But Anna has been asked to be a part of this, what's ostensibly just a mission, to go to Uranus and be a part of that as well. Like have their religious collective be a part of this big ring fiasco. I'm still not entirely sure why. I don't know if this is gonna be like a, they're gonna gather around and like, we must convert the aliens, convert to Jesus. Like I don't know what the plan is.
I think what they're supposed to be there for, or at least what Anna thinks they're there for, is they're supposed to gather and they're supposed to kind of have an interfaith conference about the events around the proto-molecule, and this, they're being sent there because they're picking up readings and things are obviously going to change. So they need people on the scene who can then kind of, I guess craft messaging back for Earthers and
and then also going to be
humanity broadly to kind of make sense of what's about to happen and what is happening.
Yeah, isn't it also like a kind of debate between like whether or not the proto-molecule represents God, or can be still accepted? You can still accept like the idea of God and religion despite aliens Isn't that also a part of it? Like how she's arguing that that is further proof that the protomolecule can be used to strengthen their call to Christ, so to say, and not weaken it. Like I think isn't she part of the whole like my take of that was like she's part of the argument that it's not religion versus science, it's religion working with science.
I think that's a little bit of what she's. As I recall from that segment, it's a little bit more philosophical, wherein she's trying to decide whether these creatures, or this entity, the protomolecule, and the people that sent it, or the aliens that sent it, rather, uh, if they are part of the sort of, I guess, the salvific legacy of Jesus, and they're like, or if they are like more like a virus insofar as like, or like, do they have souls? Are they intelligent? Are they more like a virus? Are they religious? Would God of the Christian Bible um, be their God? That kind of thing. And then there was, I think she has a friend on the ship that she talks to, and they that's when she kind of elaborates a lot of these thoughts. She kind of, I don't know. I'm hoping that some of these characters become more noteworthy, because most of these characters kind of seem like it's difficult to say what's important to summarize at this juncture, I guess, because there's like a Catholic bishop guy, there's like this guy who's like the closest thing they've got to like a televangelist style guy, and there's like the conservative politician that's tied in with him. But I guess the question is when and if these guys become relevant enough to go into great lengths about who they are and what their goals are.
Yeah, so yeah, they want Anna to be a part of it, and her her wife's basically just like, yeah, I mean, you're going to do it. It's fine. We're gonna go back to Earth, so just go and do it, and we'll see you when you get back. So she joins it. And she gets taken to the ship, and like the next thing she really kind of does is there's like this big conference. It's like a prayer conference, and it seems like it's basically just all of the people that are meeting there coming up and just bragging about themselves just over and over, and then there's like prayer, but then like they're bragging about themselves, and it's just very strange. And she's like super bored. We don't get a lot of context about it because she's super bored. But she there's a really weird interaction where afterwards she's like talking to this dude, and like they're getting along kind of like well enough, I guess, but then like there's this girl that's acting kind of strange, and she goes and talks to her, and the girl like freaks out on her and runs away. She's like, how dare you talk to me, and then just like runs away. And it's like that was kind of odd, but like unless I'm forgetting something, that's really just kind of it so far.
No, nothing special to add, I guess, other than, I guess, the reason why her wife and daughter are going away is because her daughter is like almost 2, or just 2, and she needs to get back to the gravity well of Earth so that she can develop the bone density that is needed to, if she ever wants to go back to Earth in her later years in life, or live on Earth. She needs to develop the bone density now. If she does not do that, well, she will have to permanently live in the belt, and she won't be able to survive. So that's the whole. That's how they create the tension. Is like that. There's like the irresolvable. Well, my wife and daughter can't come on this journey because they have to go right now. I guess we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah. And then, so I guess last we have Melba, who, like I said earlier, she is Clarissa Mao, and her storyline so far is she's like I said, James Holden, you've ruined my life, and so she wants to get revenge on him. So she is going to go pick up her new identity, and that's going to put her on this ship that is heading to, believe it or not, Uranus. And the guy that she's picking up her fake ID from, he's like, hey, you're doing something that's gonna be lucrative, and you're gonna make me a part of it. And I'm gonna get. Well, it was like, you're gonna split it with me, and she's like, no, I'm not. And he's just like, all right, well, you're not getting anything then. And so then she has these implants in her glands that she like, if she that are like at the top roof of her mouth or something, and if she uses her tongue and like spins it counterclockwise or something like that, it releases endorphins that turn her into I don't know, a superhero. I don't know how else to explain it. She becomes super fast and super strong, and she murders everyone in the room. I don't know.
Yeah. That's really it. She goes cyber psycho like in Cyberpunk essentially, and then she like just kills everybody. They're fun action sequences, and well, one is a fun action sequence, and then there is one action, not an action sequence, one sequence that is less fun. But it was a fun enough fight. It gave some action and gave me a reason to not just like groan endlessly as I was in her part.
Yeah, it proves that she can be a physical threat. So we'll see how that matters down the line. But
I can already guess she's going to fight Holden at one point.
Or I think she's gonna fight Amos.
That's true. I think she's going to fight Holden and Amos, and then she's going to be seeming to win, and then Naomi's going to come in and win the fight for the.
No, it's gonna be fourth quarter Bobby out of nowhere, boom, in her power armor. I'd be down with that.
I wish Bobby could come back. She was a great character.
I'm really hoping her and Avasarala come back. I don't see why not. It's not. Let's not assume that they're out of the story yet. Yeah, so she takes her stuff, she leaves, she goes to the ship to report. She's now Melba, and she's been working on this ship for at first it's like a couple weeks, and then later on it'll be like a I don't know, like 7 or 8 weeks or something like that. And she has a crew of 4 that she's running because of her fake ID gave her like the head of her little crew. One of the guys just hates her and thinks that she's incompetent, and she's like, that bothers me. Even though she's not really doing much about it yet. But then the guy that the other dude's complaining about is her second in command. The guy that's complaining about her is complaining to her second in command. So she goes to him and tries to like get him on her side by being like, look, I'm in over my head. You should have this job over me. Yeah, I don't know. Let's work together and make sure that we can, be successful here. And he's just like, you can tell that he's like, oh, I respect that. And so that kind of improves their relationship, I guess. So then now more time has passed by the time we get back to her, and she's a little more competent at her job to where she's able to do it more or less. Oh no, actually, let's back up just a little bit. When she was eavesdropping on that conversation of the dude just shitting on her, they were working on another ship, and she was planting plastic explosives, or not plastic explosives, but putty explosives, onto the ship. And what her plan is she's created this like video package, this AI video package that it's James Holden, and she's gonna send it out immediately after those ships, the bombs detonate on the ship, and it's like, I'm James Holden, and I did that for the OPA. You're gonna listen to me. The rings are under my control, and you better back off, big boys, or else. That's like her big plan to like turn the world against Holden.
Her plan is ChatGPT James Holden after committing a terrorist attack.
Yeah, basically. And I'm just like, I feel like there's so many holes in this. Like, all Holden has to do is, like, she's using AI to construct the best likely idea of what he looks like currently in that video, based off of all of the images she can find of him. Like, it's just like this is what I think Holden looks like kind of thing. And it's like, all he has to do is conveniently not look like that, and then just immediately send something out saying, hey, that wasn't me. Or like, they have like that reporter that's with them on the ship, on the Rocinante. All she has to do is be like, hey, we've been with him the whole time. This has not happened. He did not do this. Like, I feel like her plan has a lot of holes. It's probably going to succeed in order for the plot to progress. But I'm reading that and I'm just like, there's no way this works. There's no way anybody takes this seriously. Like, he can negate that immediately.
Also, in the universe, he is a hero. People like him. I don't really know why, but they do. and so I think it would be difficult to like initially for people to really buy into that. I don't know. They probably will because plot reasons, but it does not feel. I'm with you that it doesn't feel. Reading her section is not like, oh no, the good guys are in trouble. It's just kind of like, what is this spoiled rich girl doing? She's just like killing people and having these like harebrained schemes. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So then, yeah. So she's doing her job competently. Now time has passed, and then her second in command. I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. It's like a Ran or something. He calls her.
Realistically, it's difficult for us to remember these names because nobody has mattered outside of the point of view characters to this point.
Yeah, she's in the mess hall eating her fecal paste that tastes like meat, and he calls her, and she goes to meet with him, and he's like, "Hey, that ship that we were on, I'm running a scan on it, and it looks like there's some anomaly popping up on the scans, and it's like a 90% match to explosive type that she used." And she's like, "Huh, okay." And then there's like we have this really big internal like monologue and like struggle within her head where she's like, I have to kill him, he knows too much. And it's like this big back and forth with that in her head. I think that was a really well written section with that her like little inner monologue of that.
That was probably one of the yeah, I agree, that was the best part of her so far.
Yeah, I love how she's just like the other girl, Soledad.
Yeah.
I was in the mess hall with her. I'm gonna have to kill her too. It's like I'm just like I'm already seeing this plan just blow up in her face. No pun intended. And she's like, I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna hide him in my locker. I'm gonna put some like I'm gonna put him in a Glad anti-odor seal bag, and no one's gonna know until I leave the ship. And she's like, hey, can we take a look at that again? And he goes and looks down at it, and she's like, I gotta kill him. And then she hesitates, and he's like, yeah, no, it's looking bad. What should we do? And she's like, can we take a look at it again? And he's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, okay, I gotta do it. This is when she just does the whole tongue lick, the counterclockwise lick, and then just smashes his neck in. And she's like, I gotta move the body before someone notices. And that's ostensibly the end of part 1 for us so far. That's it. That's everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I love that so much. Just I have to kill him, and then she's thinking about it more, and she's like, I have to kill him, and I have to kill her. It's like it's so silly.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see where this all goes. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Nothing hyper specific. It's kind of like you said. I have faith that it's going to really start to get a lot more interesting as we go through it, because we're still just in the setup phase. But yeah, I don't know. I really just don't feel like I have a lot to say about this section. It's just really not a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I guess this will be a relatively short episode of the Sad Boys Book Club. Thank you for listening, and I guess we will see you next time.
Yep. Take care.